Welcome to the monthly cybersecurity podcast. And today we have Hans and Anand with us, the editors of the magazine. And we wanted to have a conversation on what all is going on in security related to AI and some of the other regulatory policies that are being put out there, especially from the US government. And finally, we want to also make an announcement of a webinar which we will be hosting in the month of July on 17th, and there'll be more information coming on that. So to start off with, Hans, can I ask you to briefly recap on where we left off last time, and yeah, take it from there, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rajiv. And as you correctly mentioned, this is, of course, part of our regular podcast series, which comes out monthly with a new installment. But this is the first editorial podcast that we have in 2023. Last one we did at the end of the last year with a brief outlook on what we at Cybersecurity Magazine thought would be in store in terms of cybersecurity and cybersecurity threats for the year of 2023. And I just noted down some points that we mentioned back then. One of them was ransomware, which of course continues to be an issue. We talked about API security, AI, and of course security awareness, which is very close to our heart here at Cybersecurity Magazine. And just was reading through some news stories, some of the headlines that made it in this first month of 2023. And actually one of the questions we brought up back then was how would the falling rate of cryptocurrencies affect ransomware and ransomware operations, professional ransomware operations. And there actually was recently a piece dwelling into that a little bit further, and actually identified that yes, throughout the end of 2022 and into 2023, that actually had quite some impact. But interestingly enough, it's not just falling crypto rates, but also that the technology that goes into analyzing and tracing crypto transactions has actually gotten much more sophisticated since the early days. So a lot of people who perform these kind of interactions are not as anonymous as maybe they would like to be. So that was, I thought, kind of an interesting finding. But nevertheless, of course, it doesn't mean ransomware completely goes away.
Yeah, I think ransomware keeps on increasing. It has, obviously, we all know, instead of getting into details, we all know that has become quite a business also. So, yeah, as a service. API security that we touched there, obviously, many more issues being seen associated to API security, very much related to proper security awareness and implementation of policies and procedures in the companies as well. Yeah. So, but with that, shall we also move ahead with what we're seeing now and some other items?
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. So you already mentioned. You already mentioned API security, which keeps being a hot topic. Just concluded RSA here, which was full of API security announcements, API security white papers being published as well. That, of course, is actually more on the topic of not just network security, but also software security. How do you design APIs so that they only expose minimum information? How do you do proper authentication, authorization of those services? And to that end, I think we've seen in the first month of 2023 quite some interesting pieces of policy that came out. Of course, the big one that made the headlines was the new US National Cybersecurity Strategy, which talks a lot about software security and shifting liability more to vendors, but there's also the UK Telecommunications or Telecoms Security Act. So we actually see that regulators around the world take note and actually put out some much stricter regulation than has been in place until now.
Yeah, and similarly, obviously with what happened there in Australia, Australia is also coming up with their own, let's say, a cybersecurity act or policies, things like that. Much more detailed ones. That's what I have also understood. And maybe on what Hans alluded in supply chain or SBOM related, that side is also seeing major issue. From security person's perspective, it seems very logical, but yes, it is finally coming in picture that looking at the whole supply chain of any software that is in place, because we do use several open source, and then where does this open source come from, how it is being maintained, whether it is secure or not. And as we know, the open source can have its own different branches and stuff. So then that also leads to different kind of different aspects. Yeah. And national policies, of course, does help enhance security, but there's always a trade-off and balance on how far you go. Yeah, because that also leads to various issues and can lead to costs as well, while taking care of security of the nation and people.
So the regulations and the policies as they're being implemented obviously is being addressed regionally and nationally. One of the items that was also in the news was about the U.S. government, President Biden, implementing the policies for securing internet in general for the U.S. and I hope I have overlooked it, but when I went through the short statement, and I specifically mean short because there's obviously a larger report behind that, but just a summary of the report, I was alarmed that AI as such was not addressed. Perhaps it was implied, but wouldn't that be one of those main items that should be very specifically addressed and regulated early on, as there's so many applications being launched in relation to that? I think there was a statement also by IBM that in the next 3 to 5 years, 30% of their back office would be AI functional as opposed to powered by people. What are your thoughts on that? And should it be addressed regionally, or should there be a more cohesive international sort of regulation towards that?
Maybe I take that first once. In any kind of the such matters, you can have global level agreements or standards, if you want to say, that can form a base. Yeah. And then after that, every country will have its own specific requirements because of regional reasons, and one doesn't need to go into depths of that. There can be many different reasons for that. So that is the first point on why a separate country, their own kind of rules or regulations. The second point on maybe why AI was not specifically mentioned in the US. That's just a thought from my side. I haven't read through the details, but if you start mentioning one thing, then you'll also start mentioning every other thing. Yeah, the rules should apply. The cybersecurity requirements or regulations or policies, whatever words you use, should apply to everything as such. Yeah. So be it you say 5G or IoT or any connectivity things or any digitalization and AI, it should simply apply. Yeah. And then on top of that, separately, AI can have its own set of rules and regulations and policies. That's my thought. Not any kind of agreement around the globe, but just my own opinion on that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. On the US cybersecurity strategy, I think that one, as you said, focuses more on building secure software and also as a nation strengthening the national defenses against malicious actors. Doesn't go into details of AI as far as I know, but I agree with you, Anand. It's probably good to keep that one piece of legislation or regulation to a scope that you can handle. When it comes to regulating AI globally, I'm not sure if I'm that optimistic. I think we see a lot of concern and a lot of action being taken in individual jurisdictions. There was the announcement that Italy, I think, banned ChatGPT. We have, of course, Elon Musk calling for kind of like a stop to develop any further generational AI, which is debatable.
Hasn't he launched AI-related operations recently, or at least publicly?
Yeah, he was discussing that as well. So it can be debated whether that is the right approach or not. Just considering that there's few things that the world currently agrees on, I think it's going to be hard to initially from the start come up with AI regulation that's going to be acceptable around the world. We're probably going to see a few more individual actions and perhaps bit by bit people selecting the few things that work and that seem to be the right approach to getting a hand of this.
Yeah, but on the expanding on that, maybe is AI and ChatGPT or generational AI and stuff. We have been seeing that the general point would be that anything can be attacked. So if you have a company which is running any kind of AI can be attacked, for example. So those companies require adequate security for themselves as a whole, for the network, for the data, everything that is there. And then we can always see that how then different tools can be trained in different ways to give different kind of responses and actions, which can again lead to various issues. So one still is in a state where you have to look for right balance.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I think at least when I was reading these articles, my thinking about regulating AI was more from the perspective of AI as an engine protecting us humans from what AI is delivering to us, and how it may be influencing the human society. And there's a really nice piece in The Economist by Yuval Harari where he discusses about the eloquence of linguistics that the artificial intelligence is gaining and what that might lead to. And so it was more from, and that's what I've been thinking about as of last week since I read that article. It's more from that perspective. How does one secure ours, as a species from this new intelligence that we think that we have developed? And one is protecting ourselves from it. The other is how do we actually protect ourselves from ourselves, if that makes sense? How much do we actually rely on that information that is being sort of regurgitated to us?
And I think that is actually the much more important question here, because at least at this point, from what you read of people who actually are in this topic in depth and are doing research in that area, GPT and the other AI tools that we currently have, they don't have any thinking. They don't have any internal intrinsic motivation, right? What they're trying to do is they're answering your prompts with the highest probability that makes sense to you, right? But I think you have a really good point that, of course, with a human behind that or paired with these capabilities, there's quite some malicious potential there that is going to lead to problems, and I think already is in a smaller scope, but there's probably more to come.
So they're not sentient. That's what you're saying, Hans.
Yeah, I think at least at the time of this
You haven't
recording,
encountered one.
at the time of this recording, we can make that statement.
Great. I think one of the things I just want to leave the direct conversation to what's coming up at CSM as well. So previously we talked about getting more content from standardizations and regulatory bodies, and one such effort was already made when Philippa, one of our editors, as you all know, listeners, was visiting Sofia Antipolis, and she had the hard job of traveling there. And she was with Etsy. She made some wonderful recordings with where she has interviewed several experts. So the idea is to continue with those initiatives later this year as well. And also we are expanding that initiative where we'll be working with other SDOs and regulatory bodies. And so stay tuned for more information on that. And this is one of those topics which will continue to develop further. Anand, do you want to add to what are the topics we should be anticipating for the year, later in the year?
There's several. We talked about ChatGPT, we talked about SBOM regulations, quantum computing related security and stuff like that, and various leaks that keep on happening. Yeah. I thought maybe I'll direct Rajiv you towards the webinar that's coming up. And
Correct. Sure, thank you. Indeed, that was one of the points that I was saving for the last. So we are very pleased to announce, clearly we are coming to the end now. We are very pleased to announce that CSM has taken a new initiative of organizing webinars, and the first of which is planned on July 17th, 2023, and that would be hosted at 10 a.m. JST, Japanese Standard Time, which is 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we'll be adding the information to the webinar on this podcast and in the description. The topic of the webinar is Emerging Security Technologies by Cybersecurity Magazine. And Anand is the moderator. We have speakers from San Jose State University and Stanford University, Ahmed Banafa, Tim Manley, who is from Google, and of course, Anand, who would be the moderator and also one of the speakers. We are taking in questions, so as you register, you're free to put some questions there. We opened the registration last week. There'll be more information, as I mentioned already, that we'll be sharing with all of you through the magazine. And as you register, you can post questions. You can post questions live, and we hope to see all of you there. Anand, you want to add something more to that?
Nope, that's great. Three of us will give our talks, and then we'll have discussion where I'll moderate. I think that's all. We'll post the dates and stuff. We look forward to everyone joining that webinar. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Then lastly, before we close it out, talking about the topics that our readers can look forward to for the end of the year, we again want to emphasize, if you, viewer, listener, have any topics that you think might be interesting to publish at Cybersecurity Magazine, please do reach out. We're always open to new articles from you, be that an opinion piece, be that a security basics article, or of course a career profile. We've published a number of those in the first few months of 2023. Had some really interesting profiles from people in the cybersecurity industry. So please do reach out. Always happy to hear from you.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning the career profile. Indeed. Thank you, everybody, for contributing. Please keep sending in articles. We'll be reviewing all of those, and we try to get back to you as soon as possible. So we do have a quick turnaround, and all I can say is more and more people are coming to the platform, reaching out to us through social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. And again, look out for the webinar. It's on the 17th of July. More information would be posted. The plan is to organize this for the moment, one every 6 months. So if any of you have any ideas for this, reach out to us, and we'll definitely look into that. And for now, thank you and stay safe.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.